There's the elevator jingle, Josh. Guys, welcome to Muscle Matters. Tonight, we are joined by Eric Frapwell, accomplished bodybuilder, bodybuilding coach, and now owner of Collective Gym in Bakersfield, California. Tune in. All right, guys, we are live. Welcome to another Tuesday night episode of Muscle Matters. Tonight, I am your host, Blake Burnard. Not tomorrow night, though. I'm on by Touchstone. Today, we're joined by my man, Eric Frapwell. Now, Eric and I go a ways back. Before we get into his story, I got to get into our sponsor story. This episode is brought to you in part by Covenant Coffee. Okay, Covenant Coffee is Hope in a Cup, and they do an awesome job of providing opportunities to less than privileged youth in Bakersfield. These are kids coming out of the system, coming out of less than desirable home situations, things that they may not have had any what's the word I'm looking for? Any
opportunities.
There we go.
Hey, they're in a disadvantaged group that sometimes just kind of gets pushed out because after there's no money behind them, nobody wants to keep them, right? So Randy Martin over at Covenant Coffee does a great job. He trains them, shows them how to brew beans or roast beans and then brew coffee, working behind the register, and then he actually provides housing and other life lessons for them. So Randy, great job out there. Thank you for being our sponsor, and glad to be on the show. I haven't been on this show for a while there, Blake. I'm just sitting here trying to hey, if you're out there, like us, subscribe. That's what pushes us forward, right, Blake?
Yeah. Well, I'm just thankful you're back to save my butt when I'm butchering the sponsorship. Randy, I'm sorry. So, guys, tonight, let's turn the attention to my man, Eric Frapwell. If you did not tune into the Train to Win podcast in the last hour, yes, you missed Eric's awesome story of how I became a bodybuilding coach, and a good one at that, training multiple bodybuilders to their first pro cards and really ascending his career to new heights. Now you run freaking sick gym, dude. Yeah, with a bodybuilder social media focus. Yep. For those who missed the previous episode, can you tell us your elevator pitch of your life in 30 seconds?
Yeah. Basically, I was born and then I'm here now.
Sick.
So long story short is fitness was one of the first things I found that I fell in love with. So, basically from the time I was 17, it was the end of my junior year, started working out. And then pretty much that was 2009. So we're 15 years into that now. And yeah, it's just evolved and changed and have grown through those 15 years. And yeah, I was trainer, coach, worked in the supplement industry, many different facets of that. We actually didn't get to talk about all that, but yeah, been on the retail store side, the branding side, some of the manufacturing side as well. Kind of just comes full circle now. Yeah, gym owner is one of the main titles I hold, as well as, father is the most important one.
Oh, wow. Father, dude.
Can't forget that one.
Hey, that was gold, dude. I haven't said that yet. I'm dropping the ball. So
inspiration from Darth Vader.
Is it too late for JC and Bo to be up or what?
No, they actually watched this right before bed. It's freaking awesome. I get home and they go, "Daddy, great episode." I'm like, "Mom paid you to say that. She's giving you TV time to say that, huh?"
Candy.
Okay, so I'm caught between two worlds here. We've got the golden era of bodybuilding sitting on my left, the camera's right, and we've got the new school, I guess. These are two completely different backgrounds, but the same community. Would you agree?
Well, it's hard to even describe the early birth of bodybuilding. I got the privilege. I got a picture there of me in Gold's Gym when they were filming Pumping Iron, and that's me in the picture. But there's a wider picture of the Golds with a big shot. I mean, there again, that's the original set. It's just the gym, and they were in there shooting Pumping Iron.
You didn't tell me you were an extra, Tom.
And I wasn't. I was just working out. I was 18. I'm there doing some dumbbell raises, but a lot of the Pumping Iron was the first glimpse inside the bodybuilding world. There's a picture I have there of the old second Gold's Gym when I first walked into it, and you can see people peering in from the outside. That's the way it happened before. People didn't come into the gym.
That's crazy,
man.
They just peered in from the outside because we were freaks.
Yeah.
They didn't know anything about us. And then they saw the movie Pumping Iron. They're like, what? Can that happen? Really? Because there was no girls working out.
Yeah. Yep.
They didn't want to be in there around us. And even the industry realized that they didn't want, they only brought in about 4 of the guys in Pumping Iron to continue on because they wanted to weed it out. When I say they, it is an industry. And if you don't realize it's a business, especially as a competitor, you will realize real quick that it's a subjective business.
Yeah.
And
very subjective.
I got to be part of the IOC. I shared this on a show one time. The International Olympic Committee was looking at us bodybuilding to put into the Olympics. So they allowed us in the World Games, because if you're in the World Games, you get there. So I was one of the representatives or the ambassadors for bodybuilding. And I was under contract with Joe Weider when I was 18. And so I remember talking to the, I forgot where I think it was South Korean IOC representative. He just didn't understand bodybuilding, so I was his host. So we'd go around to bodybuilding shows, and I remember after I knew they weren't buying it, and I was supposed to sell it, and I'm just saying they aren't buying it. And so I remember sitting down at dinner with him in over on Cannon Drive off of Rodeo, and he goes, Tom, in the end, is there anything else that happens in bodybuilding contests? I go, like what? He goes, well, do you guys explode or anything on stage? And I'm like, no. He goes, well, it's so hard to explain to the audience why the winner gets booed. And, and he says, so if there's something like a diver does a flip and a splash, if the splash is too big, you deduct points. He said a runner would run across the line faster, so he wins. But what do you guys do? He goes, it's so subjective. There's no way we can let you in. And I mean, that was hard for me to break to Joe Weider.
Yeah.
So, like I mean, I was a young kid. I really, a lot of people were intimidated by Joe. I wasn't. But I just told him, I go, dude, they're not letting us in.
Tom, you've told me off air that bodybuilding is a dying sport.
I think competitive bodybuilding in the purest form, where it's developing muscles, is going away. And I see this because this last year, I told you, they had me come back. They gave me a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I was watching it with Steve Southers, our host here.
That was at the Cal, right, Tom?
Yeah.
Yep, I was there.
And there was only like 6 guys in the open. And I remember a couple of them, and one of a friend of mine, Sergio Oliva's son, was in it. And there was another young guy in it. And they were asking me about it. And it was just hard to look at them and see how it went from, I mean, in my class, gosh, I did the Cal in 83, and there's probably 110 guys in my class, in the light heavy class. In the 84 nationals, there was 100 guys in my class, and it took an hour and a half to get to the front. I mean, if you had a pump when you came out, you needed to pump up when you got in front, because you weren't even judged at that point. I mean, you just were standing there in the front relaxed pose, which took an hour and a half. And I'd always stand. I mean, back in my day, you had Sean Ray, Tom Twilliger, Vince Taylor. We were all lined up in the back together, and the judges are supposed to pick 15 out of the 110. Yeah. And so I know it's a tough job on the judges. So I see that purest part of that sport has gone away. It's kind of taken a different turn, I think. I mean, it's, it's like any other sport. I've got a picture with one of the guys that runs the sport now. Not the guy in the suit. Well, there's one on me on stage. You'll recognize this guy. You'll recognize the guy to the left, right?
What?
Jim Mannion.
Yeah.
So Jim is
Jim
the
looks
godfather
young.
now. He's the president of the IFBB, president of the NPC. But then he was just president of the NPC. And so, it's at the day you win. Jim's there, so you know that you're going someplace. When Jim's raising your hand, but those are the old days, and it's hard to compare to the new days, because you look at it, and it's the competitors are dwindling, and I think we did a show with you and I that did the show. No, Steve and I did the show. Steve and I did a show, and I have a friend that was talking about the Brazilian wellness, the man that completed in the wellness. I go, in bodybuilding is getting hard up, because they're going to bring in wellness. Right? They're going to bring in a new category, and I don't know how many categories there are.
Oh, it's too many.
It just used to be bodybuilding.
Yeah.
That's all it was. And before pumping iron came out, we were a byproduct of powerlifting. So when powerlifting took a break, bodybuilders came on.
Yeah. Well, they used to have shows. They do powerlifting meet and then they compete in bodybuilding afterwards, right?
Well,
there's certain shows you'd be a double.
Yeah, bodybuilding. My first bodybuilding contest when I went down there at Gold's Gym before pumping iron came out, and I always tell the story. The guys kind of cornered me, Arnold and Franco and I forgot. I think Ken Waller. And they said, "Hey, we need a teenager in the show this week." And I'm like, "Really?" And they go, "Yeah." And I asked them, I go, "What I got to do?" And they go, "Well, you need to shave." And I was like, "Oh, dude." I go, "I've heard about you guys. I'm not buying into that." And then they're like, "Well, no." And I go, "Okay, I'm in. So what else I have to do?" They go, "Well, you have to wear a Speedo." And I'm like, there again, I don't know anything about their sport. It's back room stuff. And then when they told me you had to oil up, they lost me completely. I walked out, and the next day they came in. They go, "Man, we really would like a teenager." So I did the show, and all they did was in the back of the Gold's Gym, and they closed it at noon, and they put up a little clothesline and threw a white sheet over and a light like this, and that was the show. I placed third, and there went on from there. It was just like, but it was all closed in as just a gym community.
Yeah.
And then once pumping iron came out, it became mainstream.
Tom, you didn't tell me we were submitting yearbook photos today. I would have brought some 300-pound Blake photos, and we could have put them right next to yours and just compared lifestyles.
Well, I would just say there again, sometimes people don't get the early days, and so
100%. Now, Eric, I'd love to hear your take on this,
Yeah.
right? Because you're in the thick of it now. We're not talking about the past. We're very much talking about the present with you.
Yeah.
A lot of your clients are online. You've put some amazing physiques on stage. Where do you think the future of bodybuilding lies?
Man, I'd love to completely just have a good debate with Tom, but I see it going in the same direction. And I'll clarify my answer a little bit. Bodybuilding as a whole industry, so fitness competitions, is growing. Absolutely. So, but bodybuilding, the open class itself and 212 is definitely dwindling. Yeah, same thing. I was at the Cal show that you were there for, Tom. And yeah, there was a total of so there's different weight classes, right? But amongst all the weight classes, there's probably a total of 15 bodybuilders total. Amongst 5 weight classes. Actually, they narrowed them down to 4 weight classes.
They're good specimens for the sport.
Yeah, physiques are good.
Yes, very, very good.
But the amount of people competing is definitely down.
What would you say, Eric, is really because that's something, a lot of people know my story.
Yeah.
I've never hid my drug abuse, and I ended up with stage 4 kidney disease and heart problems. So, I've never hidden my drug use because steroids were legal even in the competitive side when I used to compete.
Yeah.
And so I'm not ratting myself out. Some of my friends think I rat them out, but I just don't get the reason why you just come out and tell the truth, because it's obvious that we're not a representation of what a normal person or a natty person can do. We're just not. I mean, and that's why I don't believe in natural bodybuilding. You can hate me if you want, but I heard the saying once is, "I'm not as good as I once was, but once I was good."
Yeah.
And so the difference. And so if you're out there saying you're natty, you're not. And I know what you're out there trying to do. You're trying to ride that line. Like, what kind of P test can I throw?
Yeah.
There's a picture of me, and I'm going to show you this. It's the one of me in the black and the white. So this is my last show. I placed 11th in the 87 Nationals.
Great shot.
And I missed the top 10, but I'm anabolic free there. And I'm on growth hormone, but I'm anabolic free because it's the first year they were testing for the universe. And Sean Ray won the show, and nobody tested. But I placed 11th. There was a great field of bodybuilders. But if I couldn't even test, but I had 2 of my tests, my P tests were great. I was on growth, doing a little bit of blood doping, but no anabolics. So that's a picture I'm proud of because I went in anabolic free. And if I would have tested, I think I would have won the universe in 87.
You're very full in that picture. Yeah. Your muscle bellies are very full.
And so my coach, his name was Glenn Birkenkamp. Glenn started out with Richie Gaspari, a good friend of mine. and Glenn wanted to work with me at this show because we were both trying to do something that, no one was testing, and now they're testing, and we're like, okay, how can we just come in under that line? Well, I can't do any anabolics, but I'll do some growth, do some things with my diet, and I placed one place out of being able to test, and nobody went that year. Sean and I talked about it all the time. I mean, it's like, hey, I really was excited, but I do believe, if I look at hindsight, God's plan was that was my last show. After that show, I called Joe Weider and said, I'm done. And I was, there again, I was still competitive. And if I would have tried to push my body a little harder, if I look back now, I mean, I have stage 4 kidney disease. So, I mean, I'm not sure I'd still be alive.
Yeah.
And I was willing to say enough's enough. And I've got that was a decade of competing at that level. So it just is. I mean, it's one of the things that if you're going to be part of, I hate it when people like rat others out or come out and say, if you just did drugs, say you did drugs, because we all did drugs and everybody's still doing drugs. I mean, just the life of things. But I like you and I've talked, Blake. Hey, let's just have an open and just no one gets tested at all.
Yep.
I think there should be an open in every sport.
I would watch.
They're trying to do enhanced Olympics. Did you guys hear about this?
No.
Yes.
Is this like going on right now?
Peter Thiel and another big money guy are trying to start the untested Olympics.
I want untested UFC.
I would love to see untested everything. You could have tested. Right. Exactly.
Hey,
I mean,
take me back to the 80s.
So let's say this, Eric, and I think we probably all would agree that everybody's doing something.
Everyone's doing something.
PEDs are performance enhancing drug, and caffeine is I perform better with caffeine in my body.
Well, and that's regulated by WADA. You can't have more than like 200 milligrams in your system or something like that.
And
150, something like that.
It's just one of those things. And if you're saying, well, we're protecting guys' health, you don't know what you're talking about.
No, because it's more dangerous when you have to find all the workarounds and shady pathways.
People invested in me. I had Joe Weider. I signed with Joe Weider when I was 19. And so Joe had I was marketable. So I had great doctors, Dr. J. Cotton, Dr. Walzak. You could go in their offices and every athlete was in there. We weren't in there to get anabolics. We weren't there for antibiotics. We were there for antibiotics.
The other A and something.
Like, yes, you were.
But I'm just saying, but it was. I mean, Dr. Jaycott went on 60 Minutes and he said, hey, somebody's got to help these guys because they're going to kill themselves.
Yeah.
And we really could care less. I mean, how far can we push it?
Yeah. And that's how I agree wholeheartedly. Everyone just needs to be open about it. You don't have to disclose what you're doing, but don't lie about what you are, what you're not.
Public knows.
I don't know where this meritocracy thing comes from, where there are no trophies being handed out for.
Yeah, I
love
for
just having merit, like not wanting to. Okay, they're making money from the circus, so why not try to make it as extreme as possible?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like a good business move for the NFL, the MLB.
Yep.
Like I stopped watching baseball when I started shaking out all these guys
who
were blowing off
the 96 home runs anymore. Yeah.
Who didn't like the Sammy Sosa, Mark Whitmire?
Exactly. It was huge for MLB.
Yeah, it was a great game. So if they're out there saying we're doing it for the athletes, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Hey, how many times do you guys know of? And Eric, you probably speak to this more than I can, but they don't want to catch us.
Oh no.
They tell us what not to take. There again, I was 87. I knew where my line is, and I have 3 drug tests that I have in a file that showed that I was clean with anabolics. But my other levels were all over the place. But they weren't worried about that.
No, they don't really care.
They just wanted anabolics.
Yep.
And if you're dumb enough to get caught on anabolics, you should get caught, right?
Sure.
I mean, when I see somebody getting caught with anabolics, I go, what was wrong with them?
Yeah.
What didn't they know how to?
Well, and so that's okay, kind of going not off subject, but if somebody's taking anabolics and then doing a natural show, why? Yeah. Like why? Just do a normal NPC show. I mean, NPC doesn't condone the use of it, but they don't ever stop. They don't care. Well, everybody.
They're not good enough to place in a.
Oh, well, that,
show, right?
For sure.
Is that not it?
I would imagine it's an ego thing. Yeah.
The male switching up over to female sports. I mean,
essentially.
Well, I think we all have made a decision in our careers. And I made the decision I wanted to be the best. So I was willing to compete with the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, you in my day, you could go to Gold's Gym and it was an open show. Basically, the Mr. LA was one of the toughest bodybuilding shows in the world because everybody came to Gold's Gym in Venice, which is part of LA, and all you need is a driver's license, like everybody's trying to get now to vote in the election. So once you did it, you got great bodybuilders. You got some Mr. Wabas and things like that coming, just trying to win a local Mr. LA show. In 1982, I did the LA show. I placed second. I never knew there was a tie in bodybuilding.
I didn't realize there was ties either.
There is. And you know how they break the tie?
Face?
Nope.
I've always joked that's the determining factor.
They throw out high and low, and then they take each judge and they see which judge placed them the highest.
Interesting.
And I lost the overall title by 1 point.
Oh man.
And I didn't. I was like, when they go, there's a tie. I was like, in bodybuilding. I was like, wow. And it was just a numerical thing.
Yeah.
And so then they went down and they said,
right.
and I could tell you stories and stories about friends of mine that won world shows and they didn't have one first place vote.
Wow.
All second place votes. But the other judges were like,
they're all over the place.
All over the place. And then the judges have to explain that somehow.
Yeah. Well, it speaks to the subjectiveness of the sport, and that is tough.
I think it's hard for any sport like that to succeed. Because how can the fans believe it? You know what I mean? Like, how do you get viewership up if, like Tom said, number one always gets booed.
Every time.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Well, to trust.
And you get it because there's sometimes a fine line. And if the judges said, there used to be 3 criteria, 3 S's: size, symmetry, and separation.
Way more now.
And that's like a rubric.
Yeah.
You can believe in a rubric because we all had those in school.
And so you're doing it, of course, these judges are like, wide shoulders, narrow hips, wide quad girth. But it just, and then we look at it now and, there is no shape. It's just size.
It's mass, yeah.
But I get that. We were trying to put on a lot of muscle, but we were trying to fulfill the eras of the Sergey Nubret and Frank Zane. And so that you wanted to have wide shoulders and narrow hips, and just so every generation chases something.
Do you guys see that trend of just mass monsters ever going the other direction? I know that, like in the NFL, right? They go to an air raid offense and they bring back power running, and it's all about cycles.
Yeah,
Converses come back, that kind of cycle, right?
Yep. Ray-Bans.
Did you see bodybuilding ever heading the other direction because it just becomes too much and unmanageable?
It's kind of in that transition, in my opinion, right now. So, let's see, when did Big Rammy last one, like 3 years ago?
Yes.
After that, there was a big uproar about the bloated guts and the distended stomachs and all this, like, and wanting to bring back more of the aesthetics. Now, and this is where I'll try not to get into too much of my opinion, but yeah, open bodybuilding nowadays is definitely more of the mass, the size, and you got to be peeled out of your mind. Right. It's the most extreme that you can get, which, Tom, to kind of answer the question that we skirted around before, I think that's the reason why it's dwindling, because being a mass monster is very difficult to do. And it takes a lot of sacrifice, whether it's health, time, energy. You're sacrificing a lot to get that size. And then you have people like me I've tried to be that size for 15 years. And I cannot physically do it.
How's that going for you?
Not well, obviously. So, and then now you have them making different divisions. So now there's classic physique, which
that's my thing. It's not relatable to the viewer. Do you think that works against them as well? You have to have money in a sport to grow.
So I think that's why there's 2 types of there's then you have on the smallest side, it's men's physique, right? Sure. That's what most people can do. Okay, the guys at the top are phenomenal, and you're not going to do that just on your own. But most people can attain a men's physique style body or a women's bikini body relatively easily with little to no androgens if you really tried.
Yeah.
So that's the accessible part. That's the relatable side. But then you have what bodybuilding has always been, which is the subculture, the freak side, which is where you have something that no one's going to do, which kind of goes back to the whole subject we're talking about with having enhanced games, untested sports, is that I don't play football. I don't want to watch some dude on TV play football as good as I can play.
That's right.
I want to watch him do something that I can't do. So I want them to be way better.
Hey, the cattle that are getting clicks are yacked out of their minds. Okay? Yeah. I want to see those guys run football. Now, again, like, I see cows walking around. I don't see a lot of, like, you know what I mean? Yep. I don't see a lot of mass monsters walking around Body Exchange or anything like that. Yeah. So that's a tough one for me.
So that one is dying. The mass monster era is not era is dying, but the open bodybuilding is.
I had a real good friend, Rich Panera, died. He won the Cal probably 7 years after I did. And I know Richie. I mean, I know his father, who just passed away, his stepfather and his mother. They were both great bodybuilders back in the 80s. And as Rich got in the sport, he presented a great physique, but he couldn't crack the nationals. You know, you always had to place a second. I placed runner-up in the USA in '86. So that was always your goal, because that gave you permission to go on to the next level.
Yep.
And especially in my day, because they only passed out 2 pro cards. No, there was no more pro cards. And I competed in the '87 year where they decided to give all the guys a pro card. And that's how I got mine. When they said, "Oh, Tom, you're good enough. You helped us get everybody in. So here's the card." I'm like, I want to earn a card.
Yeah.
I never used my card. I never did. Because I was like, guys, I'm out. I mean, I was like, this thing, I can't keep doing it. I just can't keep doing the drugs. I can't keep doing, it's this whole subculture that is out around bodybuilding. But it's as you get into that whole sub level, you see that there's almost a nonsensical desire to achieve something. That, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the video with Mike Tyson where he has all of his belts and trophies, says all trash.
Yep, I did see
all
that.
Crap, because really what it is it in the end, if you don't have your health, we all seek to get our health, then you have nothing, right?
Well, look at Ronnie Coleman. Walking around on
nobody
crutches.
wants to be people would like to have what Ronnie has, but I'm not giving up
what he had to give up.
What you had to give up.
That was a hard documentary for me to watch.
Well,
that was really hard.
In the sport, there again, even you guys, both of you have stepped under weights that scare you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I used to be afraid of workouts the next day. That scared me.
Yeah.
It really did. And I think that was probably what I think is interesting about the sport, Eric, and what you guys do, because I appreciate what you guys do. I had a couple guys, Jeff Feliciano and Dan Duchesne. Have you ever heard of those?
Yeah, I know Dan very well.
They Dan and Jeff did my drugs.
Yeah, Dan was the godfather of all the Dan blocks.
And so as they were there doing it, I really didn't care what I did. I just wanted them to make me better. But it's that chase. Both Dan and Jeff spent time in jail. They both ended up passing away. Actually, Dan wrote an article on me in Flex one time, and we had a great interview. But he asked me, Tom, what's new? And I said, I'm doing this new workout. And there's a picture there, Josh, for Flex magazine. And he was doing an article for Flex. And so it's, there, Tom Touchstone reveals incredible 300 rep system. I was supposed to have the cover, but I had an issue with, Jeff Everson, Corey's husband. And he put my friend Richie on the cover. And so I was supposed to get the whole thing. But they revealed my 300 rep system. And after that, that's all people wanted to know. And I always look back at that and I go, that's where I think the progress is. Training methods. And the 300 rep system, a friend of mine, Roy Lydelmeyer, and I came up with this together, and we'll argue about that all day long. But I was the first one to publish it because Jeff and Dan wanted to know what's new. And it was new. And all I did was seminars about hundreds. And I still get credit for it nowadays as kind of being the godfather of the HIIT program, because hundreds was in that realm. And it was just different. And we saw the Europeans doing it, the powerlifters. And they would switch into hundreds twice a year. We're like, there's got to be something to this thing. So it was just extreme reps. And
principles are many, but methods are few. I'm sorry. No, methods are many, principles are few.
There you go.
Good coaches, good athletes find what works for them.
Yeah.
We were talking off air about, like what I respond best to, but also what scares the hell out of me about some of my workouts.
Well, and I do think, and that is a mindset that both you and Eric share, is that you're willing to risk your body.
For now.
You are. A little bit less now, but absolutely.
But what you do, I mean, you tell people that if you're going in the gym and you're just a little worried about a single, like, will I come up?
It's true.
Leg days are.
You've got to be. That's got to be your mindset.
Yeah.
I'm going to the gym today, and I may not leave the same way I went in, and I could go to the hospital. I could be in trouble. I tore a trap before the 84 Nationals, and really it was terrible exercise. I thought if I tore the other one, it would at least look symmetrical. And,
That's how
Deflated looking
bodybuilders think, you know.
and no one cared about it because they were like, get over it. You know, my sponsors wanted me to show up, and,
Yeah.
and I was like, I started to realize I'm just a commodity. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just a piece of meat.
that's it. That's it. I mean, I had so many conversations with Joe Weider about it, you know, just, you know, the business side of it. I asked Joe one time, I go, man, if I could just make a nickel every time you made $1 on me, I'd be a happy man. And he said, well, I just use your pictures. And so, you know, you get work from me using your pictures. And I did. You know, it was one of those have-tos. Samir Benuth's a friend of mine. I don't know if you know about Samir.
I know a little bit about him.
Samir got banned for life for being a little rough on Joe. And I actually went in to meet with Joe after Samir was there, and he was shook up. But Samir thought, you know, I'm Mr. Olympia, you know, I can push you around a little bit. And Joe, next day, Samir was banned for life from the IFBB.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And we had a meeting, and Samir's like, I'm Mr. Olympia. And Joe's like, you're nothing without me. Who was right? Joe Weider was.
Yep. Joe. That's why unless you're a historian, you know, you don't know Samir.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you know, he never really cracked anything. Then he let him back in. I had some friends. I was offered to get into the WBF, and I had Gary Stridham was a good friend of mine, Troy Zuccolato, and Eddie Robinson, and they all shifted over, and they got banned. And I used to tell my wrestling friends that, you know, Joe's going to crush, you know, McMahon, and they said no, he won't. And he did. He leaked the steroid story, and Jim McMahon backed off, closed down the WBF and everything. So I liked what Jim McMahon was doing. He was paying bodybuilders real good money, you know, and you didn't have to be in great shape. It was more of a WWF type atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
It lasted maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and the original money was good. It was, and but I didn't get any of it. But my friend said it was a great ride. My friend Troy's up, you know, there again, all these guys. But I think that would have been healthy. Have another really solid division, but no one wanted competition.
Yeah.
Talked to a friend of mine, Lonnie Teeper, and we were talking about the underside of bodybuilding one time. He said, Tom, nobody wants to know about it. No one's talked about it. You know, and after the NBA, whatever, the natural bodybuilding bought Ironman, they just went away. Lonnie went away.
Oh, so yeah, Lonnie's not doing it. Is he promoting anymore?
No. Oh, I think he is promoting.
He is.
I think he's promoting. But Ruth passed away, and John Balick was a great photographer, and for Joe, and then went on his own. So, love to talk old school stuff, but I love, you know, I think the big thing for all of us love to work out.
Yeah,
we like the health part, we like the physical part, and then it just goes into the extreme part.
Yeah, I was like, at what point do you still like the health part? You know?
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
Well, I tell people I'm 66 and I still work out. I train 6 days a week, and I found a love for it again, because that kind of achievement will drive the love out of you.
Yeah, it
Showing
really
up in the
does.
gym.
That's the truth.
It's a chore rather than a privilege at that point.
Well, Frank Zane told me one time, you know, we were training, and the old gold guys went down to Worlds, and so we had to walk a block to train with those guys, but they were the experts. But he told me one time, because I was pushing him, just saying, you know, come on, you old has-been. He goes, Tom, one day you're going to grab a weight and realize you have to do this, and everything changes. I remember it. He was so right, because you know that young guy's chasing you.
Oh yeah,
and you cannot keep up with that.
Yeah, at some point
your receptors shut down. Your whole body says enough.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, then you get to a ceiling, and you just can't crack that ceiling.
There's no more magic anymore. You know, your body just doesn't respond to the same drugs the same way.
Yep.
The amount of effort it takes to push 1% when you're already above 90, it's just not. You have to be so extreme. Probably a couple screws loose.
Well, that's why Rich Panera went into that 5%er. His whole theory was 5% really doesn't give a crap.
Oh, Rich Piana.
Yeah,
100%.
And I just say he does that, you know, and he never could get past that state level, and he just said, I'm going off the rails. I'm going.
Yeah. He lived outlandishly.
He did. And and passed away for just being too big.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's, it's crazy when so many of these guys have obesity on their death certificates. The only way to explain, you're just too stinking big. The blood
heart has to work too hard, and
the blood doesn't circulate, right? I mean, you only get so many pints, and you got big quads and big upper body.
I feel attacked.
I'm in the obese range as well.
Yeah.
So according to BMI, I'm obese as well.
BMI, yeah, my doctor hates. Doctors hate
Oh,
it.
they hate
Doctors hate
it.
me.
I got whacked this year. I did. My doctor said, "Okay, no more playing games, Tom. Lose 20." And I was like,
Dude, you just got to give up the double stuffed Oreos before bed. It's a really easy exclusion diet when you think about it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, hey, this has been another awesome action-packed episode of Muscle Matters. It's so good to get to talk about history with exactly like where the current state of bodybuilding is heading, and what's hot right now. So, Eric, I just want to personally thank you, man, for taking an hour out of your night. Well, actually longer than that.
Thank you.
To hang out with us, man, at 511 Studios. Freaking love you, dude. And
I had a great time.
Absolutely. From us at Muscle Matters, it's been Tom. It's been Blake. Oh, we got to do this. Hey, where can they find you, man?
Oh, I like that.
Oh,
Did you see
yeah.
on there, Blake?
Huh.
Oh, there! I recognize that from the picture you posted up earlier.
I didn't even notice that.
The wide frame won't do me justice. I might actually break the camera. Okay. Hey, where can they find you, Mr. Eric?
So,
I like the camera.
Instagram for sure is the easiest. It's at Frapverse It's underscore in between each of those little words. Or you can shoot me an email if you have any kind of coaching questions. That's ericfrapwell@gmail.com. Or head into my gym, Collective Gyms, off Brimhall Road by Action Sports and Earners over there. And I'm there pretty much 7 days a week.
Get used to saying that, man. Come to
and
my
if you guys,
gym.
if you want to learn from the best, go to Eric's gym.
100%.
100%. They do a great job. And if you're young and you want to be competitive in the central section, got to go to Grindhouse.
Yep.
Oh, I was going to say, if you like mirrors and good lighting, go to Collective.
Yeah.
Mirrors, you know? A little different.
Natural lighting, yeah.
But you have the gadgets.
Oh, yeah.
If you have the gadgets, and I love gadgets. I think you guys have both taken to sport to great heights with the knowledge that you have. We were just knuckleheads. We were knuckle draggers. That's all we did, lift weights, and that's all we did. You guys put the science behind it.
I appreciate you.
What do you guys do?
More than you know,
guys
man.
really did.
More than you know. Guys, it's been another episode of Muscle Matters. Tune in next week, 6:30 p.m. turkeys. Hail strength.